Hello and welcome to this week's Cat's Whiskers podcast. Delighted to say that Aaron joins us as usual.
Good evening, Jono.
Good evening. And also I'm glad to say that our guest this week is a man of many jumpers and of course BBC Radio Nottingham's ice hockey correspondent, Owen Bradley.
Evening, gents. Nice to be here.
Great to have you on, mate. Thanks very much. We're going to be looking back at Panthers' weekend games, looking ahead to next weekend's games, and also some of the other Elite League news, and also some of your Ask CWTV questions. But first, it's back to Saturday night and a 4-0 victory against the Hull Stingrays at Hull. Really, really good result.
Yeah, obviously it's very, very positive. All the goals that we scored were just real good quality hockey goals, and you know, for Modig to get the shutout was just like I'm sure he'll say, it was just the icing on the cake for me. It was just a real solid Panthers performance.
Owen, I mean, they can only take great strides from that, and especially Modig coming straight in with a shutout. I mean, we'll hear from him very, very shortly, but to come back after, what was it, a 2-week break and play like that is just great.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the circumstances, a shutout for a netminder is always welcome, and to come back in, and yeah, it wasn't a new group, he'd played with the guys before, but to come back in, be a bit cold, probably not practice that much with the guys, it's great to come in and do it, and I think I'm running say first shutout of the season. That's a marker, and as good as Panthers have been defensively, it's nice to get those shutouts and kind of add that to the stats column and really have it out there as a bit of evidence as to how well they're doing.
I think for me the thing that really pleased me being at the game was how dominant we were for 60 minutes, and we've not really seen that this season so far, where Panthers have really just had their foot on the gas for the entire 60 minutes and really didn't give Hull a sniff at all. In fact, I can't recall a clear-cut scoring opportunity that Hull had. Just some great play by both forwards and defence, and so that only bodes well really for the rest of the season, doesn't it?
Yeah, and something that Corey's spoken an awful lot about in interviews and conversations I've had with him is that the team hasn't put in a 60-minute performance. The team have been very honest, really, about the level of performance when they've not been at it, and the fact that they've not done it for an entire game. You think of Belfast, where they were great for a time, and then they let them back in and won in the shootout at the end. So to put in the 60 minutes, as you say, Jono, you were there, you saw it. I know Corey was very happy with it, and it's about being able to put those performances together and then put a run of them together. And I know we'll come on and talk about Sunday, but backing it up with another performance, again, 2 in the weekend, is fantastic and is exactly what the coach wants to see.
Well, I managed to get a few interviews with players after the game. Here's what they had to say. With netminder Mattias Modig, glad to be back, and what a way to come back with a shutout.
Yeah, feels great. Fun game. Always important to get a win. And the shutout is just a bonus, but I thought we played well today, so we deserved it.
Did you expect to be heading back to Nottingham so quickly after your last spell?
No, I can't say that. But when they called and asked me, like, there wasn't really much to think about. I just grabbed the opportunity to come back here because I liked it so much.
So you're here for the rest of the season now, so that must please you greatly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much nicer now to know where I'm going to be instead of just moving around, like, I don't know. So it feels great.
Well, thank you very much. Excellent performance tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
With Evan Mosey after the 4-0 victory against Hull. Great performance by the team.
Yeah, it was a good game. I think that's one of the first complete games we've played all season, and you know, it was pretty good. All around goaltending was good, defense was good, and offense was great.
Yeah, how did it feel just to play for 60 minutes with almost complete dominance? I mean, I think it's been coming for most of the season in a lot of performance, but it all really seemed to click tonight.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. You know, the team, we haven't really been playing full 60, and tonight was great to just have everybody clicking and the whole team playing good, and it was just nice to get out there and just roll the lines and not really have any troubles and play a full 60 minutes and dominate the entire game.
course, now momentum, hopefully going into Coventry and then beyond.
Yeah, I think this game, the guys saw we can play a lot better than we have been, and we're pretty much going to pick it up from here on, keep the momentum going.
Okay. Want to say hi to your dad?
Hey, Dad.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.
With Panthers captain David Clarke, you must be delighted after that performance.
Yeah, it's a really good road win for us. We had a bit of everything. We had a solid defence, really good penalty killing. Modig was great at the back again, as always, and we got our job done offensively. So, yeah, really pleased with everyone.
Do you feel it all clicked together tonight? Because for 60 minutes I felt we just completely dominated that game.
Yeah, like I said, it was a real complete performance for us tonight, and this is a tough place to do that in. Hull are really good at home, and I think we countered them really well. We had created a lot of offence, and we did a bit of everything, so it was a nice complete game for us.
Looking forward, it's nice to start building some momentum now, especially with how close the league is and how close everyone is together at the top. Yeah,
it is an extremely close league this year. I think right now Coventry are winning 5-1 against Sheffield, so it just goes to show that no team's going to run away with anything, especially before Christmas this year. So yeah, it's important that we just do our job, keep winning, win the games that we should win, and obviously the big games where we're matching up against our conference teams, we have to get W's there, and after Christmas we should be in a pretty good spot. But it's not going to be something that's going to be over with going into the new year. So yeah, it's we bode well, but we're still a bit more improvement for us to come.
Congratulations, David. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot, John.
I'm with Robert Farmer after the 4-0 victory in Hull. Great performance.
Yeah, we wanted to score a few more goals, be better offensively, and I think we were that tonight. I think on another day we could have even had more goals, and obviously the defence has been like it has been all year, and it's nice having Matty back in net. He's a good goalie, and it's nice to have him back.
It must have felt good to put on such a dominant performance for the whole 60 minutes and turn that dominance into goals.
Well, yeah, I think if you have a look at some of the games we've lost, we've been much the better team in them, but we haven't been able to. They've scored a goal that we probably shouldn't have let in, a mistake, or we haven't scored enough goals. But tonight, obviously, everyone came together, played pretty good, and I don't think they had an awful lot all night.
Obviously, Coventry tomorrow, so it's all about keeping the momentum up now.
Yeah, that's what we said. It takes one. Got to get the first one out of the way to get on the streak, and we did. And we'll look to beat them at home tomorrow. I mean, we played pretty good last time we played them at home and won, and hopefully we can do the same.
Okay, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
No worries.
The thoughts of some of the Panthers players there on Saturday night after the game in Hull. Of course, as Robert Farmer mentioned there, it was all about taking the momentum onto Sunday's game, and they sure did that.
Well, yeah, they did, to be fair, Jono, didn't they? I mean, you don't get a better start than really scoring a goal after 42 seconds, do you? So that certainly meant that the momentum was with us in that game. And for me, it was just another confident, assured performance from the Panthers. And for me, we never kind of looked like we were ever going to lose that game. Again, some really good goals spread across the team as well. Higgins obviously got one, which is great to see that he's starting to actually get some points on the board. I mean, I must say Higgins' goal was purely down to Lacko though, because Lacko's assist on that was just beautiful to see. A bit of pace driving to the net, and then just setting up Higgins for the tap-in sort of. And obviously Bruce getting another goal is great, a power play goal in that. So yeah, just another confident performance, like I said earlier. And it's 4 points from the weekend. It's what like Owen will tell you, it's what the coach wants to see, it's what fans want to see. And I think it does. It's a perfect weekend for us in going into this coming weekend, which is going to be a tough one. But I just want to say one thing just to wrap about the two games from my point of view is, let's highlight the penalty kill for me, because I think our penalty kill this season has been just immense at times. We killed another long 5-on-3 penalty kill on Sunday, and we've had 10 PKs this weekend and not one goal conceded. And I think that as a team as well, because it is a team, but they do need special mention, because specialty teams and all that, they make a difference, and I think they deserve credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Owen, Corey said about trying set lines this weekend. He's been mixing the lines up previously. He went with set lines in both games, and it seems to have really made a difference as the players get settled with their line mates.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. I mean, Corey, since the start of the summer, has talked about wanting to play four-line hockey, particularly in the Champions League at the start of the autumn. And it's about that balance. It's about getting the familiarity between players, and what you see a lot in the NHL is coaches pick pairs who stick together and will rotate a third guy in. If they get a line that has good chemistry, they'll stick with it. But I think wanting to use the depth and use the numbers, because when Panthers go to settle lines and Jonathan Boxall sometimes is the 10th forward, I think that could be incredibly harsh on the guy. I think he's a heart and soul player, and he's got a lot of ability, and he's such a smart player that I sometimes think it's harsh on him, and I'm glad he gets used in other roles, because I think he should be out on the ice. But yeah, sometimes you do need to leave players together just to get that chemistry, just to get things going, and it certainly looks as though Nottingham are starting to benefit from that. The other thing they've got now as well, guys, is it's been a disruptive kind of start to the season for all sorts of reasons, but it's not now. It's a bit more settled, everything's a bit calmer, guys are back from injury, and they're just starting to play, I think, with a bit more of that Corey Nielsen swagger that his most successful teams have. They have that confidence. Some will call it arrogance. But I think they're just playing with that. And I think that's what you saw in Hull, the way that they didn't give the Stingrays a sniff. And I think you saw that on Sunday as well against Coventry.
Chris Higgins as well is a player to single out. He's probably 6 weeks behind everybody else with the bad injury he got at the start of the season. Now really seems to be coming into his game, and we're seeing the player that Belfast had last season, and also seems to be having a great understanding with Robert Lakovic. They seem to be playing very, very well together. I mean, Aaron, that was typified in the goal that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it really was, and I think Higgins, for me, will still get even better, because like you say, he's had a tough start with injuries. He's just starting now to, fingers crossed, get settled in, and it's kind of a line that we didn't anticipate. We all thought that Higgins would be on that line with Benny and Bruce, but like you say, it does seem that he's picked up this relationship with Lacko, and the assists and the goals that they've given each other in the last few games has gone on to be important for us in games. So I think there's more to see from Higgins, and it was a great signing by the Panthers, So he's going to be a big player for us.
Mm. Another player who really caught the eye over the weekend was Max Perron, who had a fight, was a nuisance throughout both games, and of course Paul Baum wrote a great article that's on the Cats Whiskers website about how he did over the weekend. So if you haven't read it, do go and read it. It's an excellent article. But he's another one who again has been missing for quite a while through injury, and really seems to be benefiting the team since he came back.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with Max in the commentary box while he's been out injured, do the games for the Panthers DVD and for the Panthers website, and unfortunately when you're an injured player you have to come and sit with me and do co-commentary, and it was great having Max there. I'm sure people have watched the highlights. You can tell he's an intelligent guy, that he's got good hockey sense. But I remember the start of the season before he got hurt, I was a big fan of him. I like the physicality. He looked like he's got bags of skill as well. And again, he's a guy who, coming back from injury, I think is only going to get better. And I think now you're starting to see the team that Corey put together start of the season. We're starting to get a true reflection of what that team can do and the top of the standing.
Another player, we mentioned him earlier, is Mattias Modig, coming back in after a 2-week break after leaving the club. Now here on the season-long deal to cover for the injured Craig Kowalski, and top of the netminder standings with some absolutely ridiculous statistics, it can only be said. I've just got them up here. After 8 games, he has a goals against average of 1.61 and a save percentage of 0.948. Closest to him is Kevin Reagan of the Five Flyers with 0.922. I mean, they are some quite incredible stats.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are going to kind of level out a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure he can sustain that for the whole season. If he does, Nottingham will probably win the league easily. But, we have to be realistic about these things. They are probably going to level off a little bit. But no one's seen that much of him. I've not seen a lot of him. But I was impressed in what I have seen. That the shootout that Nottingham lost was a little bit ugly. I don't think he was really settled and quite ready for that one. But I've been impressed with him. Craig Kowalski has this status in the Elite League and with the Nottingham Panthers, and rightly so. He's been one of the outstanding netminders in the Elite League and certainly of the past couple of seasons. But Mattias Modig is a great option. He's going to be great competition. It'll be something we don't see a lot of if Craig Horsey gets fit. We don't really see much competition for netminding jobs in the Elite League. So that adds a different dynamic to it as well. And I think bringing him in is such a smart move, and it's great to have him on board.
Sorry, Jono.
Of course.
Just one thing. Sorry. I think what he brings as well is calmness. But you can see that sometimes, even in the few games that we've seen him play to the defence. Just brings that calm stature that, he's not one of these netminders that is flying all over the place. He gets his angles very good. And like Owen says, those stats will level out. But I just think it's, when you lose Craig Kowalski, you're losing a massive figure in your team. And I just think that Modig's come in, he's different to K-Walt, and I just think he's brought a calmness which, is great to see in a netminder. And I just think it's a great pickup. It really is. And I think people need to realise that we've only got Modig because we took part in the CHL.
Yeah.
That was through the connections that we got through that competition. So yes, people say the CHL was a waste of space, etc., but we wouldn't have Modig now if we weren't in that competition.
Yeah, that. Sorry, just to come in again. Exactly the point I was going to make, and when I was on the locker room with Chris last week, made a similar point. There are other players on the roster as well. I mean, Nathan Robinson is the obvious one who's now departed, and obviously Panthers fans hope he comes back. But there are other players for whom being a part of the Champions League was part of the selling point of coming to Nottingham. And, that would be the question that I would ask Panthers fans who are very happy with what they've seen so far from Mattias Modig. Like, does his presence, does his signing, does that make the participation in Europe worth it for you? Because a lot of people knock it and say, oh, it's damaged domestic competition, it should all be about the Elite League. Well, this is, as Aaron says, this is a direct consequence of Nottingham being in Europe. So does that change how people think about it? I'm not sure it will, because I think people sometimes have a preconceived idea about being involved in Europe and what it means. But, I think those people should look at the situation and actually go, you know what? Panthers have made some good connections. They've made a really good impression on European clubs who are bigger clubs, who have better resources, who have better players, and that can only be a good thing. Sorry to just sidetrack, but it was a good point. It was a good point from Aaron that I wanted to jump in on.
Yeah. Question that we had over Twitter from Scott Ancliffe, who's of course a Sheffield fan, and he says, could he be a potential long-term replacement for K-Wall?
Well, I mean, I think that's for a few people, and I'll put myself in that group there, that you'd like to think so, but this is a guy that played top-level Swedish hockey at some stage in his career. He's still young. I'd like to think that we could maybe, but I think we also have to be realistic and say he may be at this stage of his career, the Elite League in the UK might not be his option.
He signed for the season, so you never know. I mean, I suppose it all depends on what Craig Kowalski's future plans are as well.
And he's also said that he likes Nottingham, he likes the Panthers, he likes the organisation, and that's the starting point, isn't it? Really, if they like it, you never know.
Moving on to some of the other games that took place in the Elite League over the weekend, and perhaps the biggest surprise was the 2014-15 Elite League champion Sheffield Steelers losing both games over the weekend.
You had to go there, didn't you?
I did have to go there. Well, you went there last week, so it's my turn this week.
Fair, yeah.
They had quite a heavy loss, 6-2 to the Coventry Blaze on Saturday night, and followed that up with a 4-3 shootout loss in Belfast on Sunday. Was that surprising, do you think? I mean, I must admit, I was quite surprised at the defeat, or the level of defeat that they had in Coventry.
Look, losing to Belfast, that happens. They're a good hockey team. You're not going to win every game against them, and I think what it proves is in the Elite League, as Nottingham fans will know, anybody can beat anybody, and they can beat you quite heavily as well. Coventry do have weapons, and they can hurt you, and that's what they did to Sheffield. It's just a reminder, really, that you have to take everything in perspective. You have to not have knee-jerk reactions to one result or to one bad weekend. Yes, it was a bad weekend, but does it make the Sheffield Steelers a bad team overnight? Of course it doesn't. In fact, they'll probably learn a lot more from what happened at the weekend and be more dangerous going forward than if they'd won both of those matches without any issues. So it just kind of underlines once again that the Elite League, anybody can beat anybody. To borrow the slogan from certain people in the Panthers organisation, the ticket says versus, not beating. So it just proves it, really. Like I say, Coventry have weapons. I know we'll talk about the changes that have been made there as well. They could be a bit more of a dangerous team going forward, and maybe Sheffield, saw the front edge of that.
Talking about the Blaze, of course, they have announced a new coach, Chuck Webber, a 41-year-old. Was head coach with Zagreb in the KHL until very recently, but has a storied career as an ECHL and AHL head coach and won 2 Kelly Cups in the ECHL. So this is a good signing by the Blaze.
It's a great signing, isn't it? And I would say one that nobody really saw coming, did they? I mean, you had the people mention, well, it'll be Gertson and Egner till the end of the season, and then bandied about the normal kind of names, Paul Adey, for example, because we all know that, he's not got a job in the hockey world at the moment. But I think it's it's a sign of what maybe Coventry are trying to do. They're trying to get back into that kind of top 3, top 4 team. And like Owen says, they do have weapons. They're not a bad side. It's just that obviously the coaching didn't work out, and it seems that this guy's going to come in and he's going to maybe rustle a few feathers, and he's going to set up a bit of a foundation to move the Blaze forward. Not for just this season, but for the next season and the seasons after that. So fantastic work by the Blaze, and I think it's going to make the Blaze stronger.
I think for me, having someone coming in who has no previous connection with the Blaze as well will help, because I think there was a lot of feeling. I mean, Paul Wheeler said it when we had him on the show last week, that there was a feeling that it could be a little bit like an old boys club. Obviously, getting a guy like Chuck Webber in shows that it really isn't.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw the appointment was it's great to have somebody new to the league. That's no disrespect to the likes of Paul Adey. I love the guy, but sometimes you do need a bit of fresh blood in and a few fresh ideas. And I know Corey Nielsen would say somebody who's not seen some of his tricks before. So there's that point of view as well. But yeah, great to have somebody in who's new to the league. I think it's a great appointment by the Blaze. I think you've got to give them a lot of credit. They took the criticism for making what was probably the wrong decision with the last head coach. I think this is a good one. Even if he's only here for the season, which it looks like he will be, even if he, as you guys have said, even if he can change the ethic at the club, because it's not been moving in the right direction for a while. They need to turn the Sky Dome back into a bit more of a fortress, get fans back, get people back enjoying it, and go from there and kick on next season with that kind of ethic. So credit to the organisation, great appointment, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what he can do with that group in Coventry.
Okay, moving on to some of the other results of the weekend. A great 4-point weekend for the Edinburgh Capitals. 2 shootout victories, 2-1 victory over the Dundee Stars on Saturday, and then followed that up with a 3-2 victory over the Hull Stingrays on Sunday. However, quite a lot of controversy in that one, as Jordan Mayer of Hull quite clearly scored what would have been the winning penalty shot, only to have it waved off by the officials. So that could be a very important mistake at the end of the season.
It could be, yes. You're not wrong. Look, these things happen in sport, don't they? As people will tell you. What can you say? The footage is out there. People have seen it. You can't really try and put a positive spin on it, can you? To a certain degree, but I mean, from Edinburgh's point of view, that's 2 conference teams as well that they've picked up points against. So for them, it's even better than if they say maybe played a team from the other conference, and they've got games in hand as well, especially against Dundee. Below them, it could be. We've already talked about the word regarding the Panthers and momentum. For Edinburgh, momentum is everything, isn't it? Especially after the start that they had. So there'll be some happy Caps fans, shall we say?
Oh, and it sparked the debate again about replay technology being used. How realistic is that in the Elite League?
Look, I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. I'm always a bit uncomfortable when, and I remember this happening in Nottingham, when we've had the cameras there, we've had Premier there, and referees have used video replays. Now, for me, you can't have it in one game and not have it in another game. If you're going to have it, it has to be in every single game, and that means that every rink has to be up to the same standard, the kit has to be right, people have to be trained properly. It's a massive investment. I would love to see the league do it. It would be fantastic, would probably get them publicity and all the rest. But you know what I'd rather see before that? A bit more time and investment on the referees, a bit more support for the referees, a bit more support for the entire system. You know, it's not at the top of the priorities list as far as I'm concerned. So the fact that we're not going to see it for a while doesn't bother me so much. It'd be great, but you know, we have to be realistic about it. And by the same token, by the way, just on the referees, you know, we see decisions like that and we can really give them a kicking, and the refs and the officials get stick every single weekend, happens in every sport up and down the land. My thought is always you do have to cut them a bit of slack. You know, I had refereeing experience in inline hockey, and I know how difficult it is at that level when it's under 12s and it's a snail's pace, you know. So the game moves quickly. Yes, we all want better referees, we all want better officiating, but sometimes you have to give the guys a break and accept that they are doing a pretty damn good job most of the time.
Okay. So a quick look at the Elite League table as we move into the weekend. So, Panthers, top of the league, first time this season, 19 games played and 28 points. A point back at the Braehead Clan, as are the Sheffield Steelers. However, Clan played 20, Sheffield also 19. Fourth place after 18 games are Belfast with 25 points, and then in fifth place come the Cardiff Devils with 23, also from 19 games. It's incredibly close.
It is, but for me, I think it's fantastic. It's great for the league, and like Owen said earlier on, you know, the Steelers have just had a bad weekend. They've collected, you know, 1 point out of a possible 4. But look, they're in third place, 27 points, you know, a point behind the Panthers at the top. I think you're going to see this, and I've said this on many occasions, you're going to see this right throughout the season. For me, you're going to be coming up to the last 2-3 games and there's still going to be teams competing for the championship. I really can't see any team running away with it like Belfast did last year, and I think that's fantastic. I really do. Panthers are there at the moment, and whoever, you know, is there at the top at the end deserve it.
Owen, can you see it staying this close right to the end of the season?
Maybe not this close. I think as the season goes on and injuries will take its toll. But on the other hand, it wouldn't surprise me because the 4 teams that are up there are pretty well resourced. You feel they can make additions if they do get serious injuries. And as Aaron's just said, like this is exactly, you know, from a hockey fan point of view and an Elite League fan point of view, this is exactly what you want. You want it as competitive as possible. You want as many games as possible to mean as much as possible as the season goes on. And if that's the Panthers against Hull in Hull on the same night that Sheffield go to Cardiff, and both of those games have an effect on the top of the table, whatever it is, because that will bring the intensity and that will make the product more exciting, and that should hopefully bring more people in, which ultimately is what the sport needs in this country and what it's trying to do. So yeah, I think it could well stay this close right to the end, and if, you know, we had a few seasons ago, didn't we, where Cardiff won it on what, regulation wins or something like that. You know, maybe it won't be that close again. I think that was a bit of a freak season, but yeah, when Cardiff missed out. But yeah, it'd be great to see something like that.
Yeah. Just very, very quickly before we end this segment, talking about attendances and games and close games. 27th of December, Panthers against Sheffield. The tickets went on sale yesterday. As at 8 o'clock tonight, there was 169 tickets remaining. That is quite incredible.
Yeah, incredible. You know, so much for the rivalry is dead. But what else better is there for a rivalry than for it to really mean something? And you know, that game against Sheffield could be top 2, and as I say, that's going to be competitive and that's going to be intense and it's going to be entertaining, and that's what everyone wants to see. And what the clubs have done over the last, well, quite many years now is they've turned the Panthers-Sheffield fixtures over the festive period into a fixture. You know, everybody knows that's what it is. It's like Boxing Day football, and you've got to give both clubs credit for that, really, and to sticking with that and to turning the games into what they've become, which is, you know, a big event.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I think Owen just made a good point there about the fact that it's now, you know that's going to be the fixture before the fixture list is even released. And I just did a little bit of research today about it, because when I looked at 6 o'clock there was 242 tickets left, and they're just odds, they're single seats here and there, and that's fantastic. But I also looked at the 26th when we were up in Sheffield, and there's still quite a lot of tickets available for that.
Don't forget that is
I know
that's
it's
2,000 more seats there.
I know, but I literally, this makes me sound quite sad, but I actually went into every block and looked at it, and there's very few sort of blocks that are sold out or have limited availability. There is still plenty of tickets left there. Granted, like you say, it's a bigger arena, but it kind of made me ask the questions: why is the 27th sold so fantastically in 36, 48 hours, and maybe not the 26th? Is it something that the Panthers do? Is it Panthers fans buying into this rivalry again? Is the fact that we beat them 7-2 last time a factor in it? Is it the fact that we've just gone top of the league? They've had a bad weekend. It really, it's amazing work by the Panthers. And don't get me wrong, the 26th will still, it'll probably match up to the Panthers' attendance on the 27th. But you have to give credit to the Panthers and the Panthers fans. They're the ones that have bought the tickets. So it's just going to be one of those great events, isn't it? It's you kind of want it to be next week, but it's not that long away.
I think for me, it's one of those games that the casual fans will come out and watch. It's always the Sheffield fixtures that the casual fans who pick and choose the games will always look for. And of course, it always does sell out quite early. It has done the past 3 or 4 seasons. The Christmas fixture, you at least a week before. But I mean, this is absolutely unprecedented what we're seeing at the minute, where it's practically sold out a full, 25 days before the game takes place. I mean, that is quite amazing. And to be fair, there's only really 2 small blocks of Sheffield fans. The vast majority in that building is going to be Panthers fans on that evening, which again is incredible, considering that Sheffield have got a large fan base, and they're probably only going to have 400 fans in the building, if that, out of 7,000.
Just one question that I'd like while we've got Owen on, because obviously Owen's a big, he does this, I'll whisper this, Derby County. But do you think, Owen, do you think ice hockey's, like you mentioned the football festive period, do you think ice hockey's sort of maybe learnt from, football and other sports, that Christmas and the festive period is sport? A lot of families out there want to go and see sport at during the festive period, and ice hockey's kind of maybe learnt from that. Do you think that?
Well, quite possibly. I mean, if not, I think they should. I think they should be looking at every sport, as every sport should do. Steal ideas, good ideas wherever you can get them. Quite possibly. I think that that might have been the thinking in turning Panthers Sheffield over Christmas on Boxing Day and the 27th into a fixture. But on the other hand, I do, just to take this a bit more generally, I get frustrated by this quite a lot, and I know that often it is due to ice availability, but whenever there is a clash with the football, with Panthers and Forest, it really frustrates me, because there are supporters who support both and who go to both and who are season against both, and they're only, in my experience, they only really make one choice in that, and it's to go to the football, and for that reason it really annoys me. And maybe just to go back to the point you made, Aaron, about the 26th, maybe that's what's damaging Sheffield. I don't know where United and Wednesday are on Boxing Day, but I know people who would miss the Panthers game if it was at home on the 26th, because they're watching Forest, or whisper it, they're watching Derby. So maybe the 27th is actually the plum date to have, because there isn't a clash, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, actually. And also we can look at it in the sense of the 31st, against Coventry, New Year's Eve. Last year's was a big event, wasn't it? And I think this game on the 31st that we'll have against Coventry again is becoming potentially a regular fixture, and there's whispers that maybe even that might be a sellout. So, it's just, it's interesting, the whole festive period. But I agree with what Owen's just said there. I know people that would go to Forest over Panthers if it came to making a choice, and like Owen says, that is a little bit disappointing. So maybe the 27th is the plum date.
Okay. Moving on, you may remember last week we was having a discussion about the Cage Forum, and I made an open offer for anybody from there to sort of speak to us and describe why they felt the way they felt. We had one respondent, that was Andrew Warren, and here is what he had to say.
I'm with Andrew Warren, who answered the call from my open offer on the Cage Forum and on last week's show to talk about some of the negativity on there. Now, Andrew, if you don't know, is probably one of the more reasonable posters on there. Would you agree with that?
I like to see it from the middle point of view. We can be a bad side, we can be a good side, but there's no point harping on about the negatives or the positives, because that's life.
What's your overall view of some of the things that's been put on there recently, especially when you consider where the Panthers currently are in the league?
There's a lot of sensationalism on there, as in a lot of people want to say negative things and pick apart the negatives and not highlight some of the positives that happen, such as the position we're in the league, how far we're off the top. That's dismissed as happy clapping, but that's fair enough, but it's where we are. We haven't got a great side on principle, we're not playing well, there's bits missing, and people just won't accept either argument, either all negative or they're all positive. There's not many of us in the middle as such.
We've seen the Cage over the years probably become a bit more extreme, and it tends to be, I suppose, a bit more cliquey these days. There's not as many people posting as there used to be. What do you think could be done to sort of get it back to where it was, where there's a lot more people contributing and there's not as many sort of polarising views?
Unfortunately, I think that's just the way the internet's going these days on forums. If you go into most of the football forums, you can't get away without someone referring to someone's mother at every other post. I do remember the Cage from the start of the Elite League when I started coming to the Panthers being quite open and friendly. Now, if you're not in with a certain mentality on a thread, you're almost ignored to the point that you believe you're on ignored from everybody. So, without being heavy-handed with the moderating, unfortunately, I can't see anything happening really.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us.
No problem, Jono.
So the thoughts of Andrew there. Owen, do you feel they were fair comments?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with an awful lot of that. I mean, I still read the Cage quite regularly. I still go on and post every now and again, and I do get that sense as well. You know, there are people who are either in one or two camps, and if one of those people posts, the other person completely discounts it. When actually, if you look at what people are saying, there are generally pretty good points on both sides, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I sometimes look. I'm not a happy clapper. I don't think it's right to be that, but there just sometimes seems to be overwhelming negativity from certain people, and that isn't just on the Cage, by the way. That's on other forums of other sports teams that I follow, that I go in and check, and I always sometimes wonder why people want to go on there and just criticise and moan for the sake of it. But it is always annoying when you look at a match. So Nottingham have gone top this weekend. How many posts are there about it? Not many. Nottingham have a bad weekend. How many posts are there about it? Page after page after page, and it's not necessarily always a good, because that isn't a representation of the fan base, but some people will take it as that, and that's a shame, because as I say, when you get down and read what people are actually writing, most of the time it's pretty sensible. It's often quite insightful as well. So you don't want, as we kind of heard there, you don't want the reputation of the thing to go ahead of it and people to stop using it, because it is a valuable tool for fans.
Aaron, final word.
For me, it should. It's a forum that's for discussion, and there's not that much discussion. It's more like people tell you how they feel, what's wrong, and their ears are then closed. They don't want to hear anything else about it. But then I still check it every day. So, what can you do? Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to some of the CWTV questions that we received, and quite a few we actually received about the Challenge Cup. So I think we'll start with that. Of course, it was announced today that Panthers will be facing Fife in the quarterfinals. Next Tuesday, the game will take place in Fife. So a week today, as we record this, the 9th of December. There will be a webcast provided by 24/7 TV, so you will be able to watch that that up in Fife. And then the second leg will be taking place in January. A special ticket price put on by the Panthers for that. £10 for adults, £5 for concessions. So I think fair play to the Panthers there, lowering the price and trying to get a big crowd in.
Yeah, I think you have to give full credit to the organisation. It's a midweek game for us, where attendances sometimes can be a little bit lower than what they would be potentially if it was a weekend. And like they say in the press release that they've done, they're offering it back to the fans for the support. So I think thumbs up from most of the Panthers fans for the club for doing that. And hey, it's not an easy draw. It's not a tough. It's going to be a tough two fixtures. The gap in between the two, really is quite large, isn't it, really? So it's kind of get your head on for next Tuesdays, then you're back into league campaign, but then you're going to come up in January with a Challenge Cup quarter final that you need to get your head on. And it's good that the Panthers have done that for the second leg.
Of course, the tickets for the final went on sale yesterday, which caused quite a lot of confusion, because there was tickets for home fans, tickets for the designated away fans, and the neutral section. Of course, we haven't even got to the quarterfinals yet, so we don't know who the teams are going to be taking place in the final on March the 9th. We had a question from our old mate Clantastic, who says, any reason why the League and Motorpoint Arena didn't put the Challenge Cup final tickets on sale during the summer?
Well, I kind of see his point. If they're going to put them on now when we don't know who's going to be involved, then why not put them on sale in the summer? It's a funny one, really. I mean, I like the fact it's a one-off final. I like the fact it's up in Sheffield as opposed to being in Nottingham, because it's just a change of scenery. I remember going to see a cup final when Sheffield beat Nottingham, I think in Manchester years ago, and that was a great afternoon with my younger brother, and that was one of the nights that kind of underlined why we love the sport. Great atmosphere, great night, really enjoyed it. And if they're trying to turn it into a bit more of a league-wide event by putting tickets on sale now and getting lots of fans in and bringing people together, that's great. But yeah, it doesn't make a great deal of sense when we don't know who's going to be there, I guess.
A couple of other questions that we've had about the format as well, and it was something that was discussed in length on A View from the Bridge last week, where Mark Hitchcock, who's been the standing host on there for a while, he came up with bringing it back like the old Benson Hedges Cup used to be, where everything was done and dusted by Christmas. So the final was in December, and the group games were played as the season openers. I personally think there's a lot of mileage in that. I would like to see us go back to that, and I think it then gives the Challenge Cup a bit more prestige, because we're having it where you have some games that are doubled up with league games, and you have other games that are standalone, and I just think it doesn't do the competition good, because there's no real set format for it. And Ray Monaghan, who does the Centre Ice podcast, he tweeted us in saying, any point in having a format when it gets broken so often?
It's a real tough one, isn't it? Because I think it'd be a struggle to find anybody that kind of is 100% happy with how the Challenge Cup works at the moment. I think you have to give kind of credit to the league in the sense of they're trying to change it with this, this one-off final. It's like Owen says, it's in a different venue, which gives it a bit of kind of like a fresh air kind of feel. I think it would be great if you could go back to, like you say, like that Benson Hedge kind of format, but it's people's ice time, isn't it? There's a lot of organisation to fit that in, and to bring it to the Panthers and the Fife game. We've already seen that ice time has meant, or the lack of ice time for Fife has meant that they've had to take the first leg, when really they should have had the second leg. So it's a work in progress for me, and I think maybe in future seasons we might see changes to the Challenge Cup, but let's not run before we can walk.
It's a funny one for me. I think at this point, if you're going to have a third competition, a cup competition, it needs to be radical. It needs to be something different, and it needs to really give fans a reason to get behind it. I think if you're doubling up fixtures, you kind of devalue it straight away. So if it was me, I'd throw that straight out of the window. I also don't understand why they play two groups just to only knock, 2 teams out. So for me, that's not great. But I understand why teams want, more match days. It's more revenue, all the rest of it. So I understand it from that point of view. Bring it back before Christmas. Make it different. Make it something that is a lot more interesting. Give teams bragging rights. But I think I've gone on record and said this before. For me, the ideal would be something like more of an FA Cup style, where you have EPL teams in as well, and you do maybe one-offs where the higher ranked team, the Elite League team, plays away at the EPL team. Just do something really different. Give fans something really different to look at, something really fresh, really new. But on the other hand, it wouldn't do much harm to pick a format and stick to it, and give the competition a few years to really develop. So, I've kind of contradicted myself there, but it just needs a bit of a clear vision. I'd like to see something radical and something really different, but maybe that's just because I've been covering the sport for too long. Who knows?
We had a tweet from Andrew Birrell, who's Colorado Flyer, a big fan of the show as well. He says he thinks we should dedicate slots for it, so you have actually dedicated weekends where you're just playing Challenge Cup games. But he says that have the final, say, the week before playoff weekend. Me personally, I think that's too late. I think it needs to be in Christmas and take it away from the playoffs. But I do like the idea of having on these dates or on these weekends we will just be playing Challenge Cup games.
Yeah, for me, I totally agree with what Owen says. It really annoys me that certain teams and certain fixtures are doubled up. The league and Challenge Cup points. It, like Owen says, it kind of devalues the Challenge Cup in my eyes. And then you throw in the fact that only one team gets knocked out from a possible 5. It kind of, for me, it doesn't give the Challenge Cup any identity. Doesn't give it any kind of special feeling, and it really, like Owen says, it needs kind of radical change, and I think we've talked about it in the past with introducing EPL teams in it, and I think that's kind of like would be a dream scenario. So it does go to the FA Cup. And one thing that I don't really understand is why the group stage is always the same. They're all the same teams. Why don't they ever mix? Why don't they ever mix them up? Why is it not just drawn out from a hat? Let's take it down to that kind of level. Why does it have to be in the situation that it is now?
I think it's done geographically, to be honest. I think there's no other reason than that. It's done geographically.
Yeah, to be fair, you could still do that and still have it make sense. Maybe they should look at cricket in terms of, you're talking about designated weekends. In the cricket season, they'll have a block where they do 2020s or a block of one-dayers. Maybe we need to go to something like that. So, the first month of the season is a regular season, and then you have a month that is Challenge Cup group games, and rather than 4 teams go through from each group, 2 teams go through, so you go straight to the semi-final. Then everybody else goes back to Elite League, and then you can wrap it up before Christmas, something like that. Just as you say, to give it a bit more identity and to make it special, make it different from what we say every time. Because I've had conversations with people who will remain nameless, and you come up to a game and, all right, I didn't know this was a Challenge Cup game. Surely this is a Challenge Cup game. Surely teams should be able to use that as a way to market the fixture. I don't know.
Okay, moving on to the next question. This comes from Colin Basford. We received this on Facebook. He wants to know what we think of the noisy block idea. Of course, Block 18. A lot of people have moved there to chant, sing. Very much brought about after the experience in Hamburg, where, of course, they have their own noisy blocks. It's been going for a few weeks now, so what's your impressions of it so far?
For me, I think you have to say that the people that are in the Block 18, they do their utmost, throughout the game. They really don't ever. I can't remember a game that they've been there and there's been a period, shall I say, where it's quiet. You know, they do give it their all. So full credit to that. I think it all depends on the opposition, whether the rest of the arena starts to get involved. We're nowhere near the Hamburg level as yet, and of course nobody expects us to be. But I'm kind of looking forward to it, to see what it's like in 2 months' time. You know, has it evolved? Has it got bigger? Is there more people? Does it affect the rest of the arena? But I mean, while we've got Owen on, what I'd like to know is, when you're up there commentating, can you hear that? Can you sense it? You know, that they're doing they're trying to get involved. They're trying to get the rest of the arena going. Does it have an effect up there? Can you hear it?
Well, it's funny because that was exactly the comment I was going to make. Obviously, I'm wearing headphones, so what I'm hearing is the noise from the mic that's picking up what happens down on the ice. I'm hearing me, and I'm hearing whoever the co-commentator is. But this season, and it took me a couple of matches to really realise what it was, you know, there is something a bit different, and it is the noise from the guys over in 18. You can hear them, or at least I can hear them through the headphones, and you can hear them on the DVD. Look, I think they're doing an absolutely outstanding job. I'm a massive fan of it. Had the pleasure, obviously, of going out to Rama and seeing their fans. You know, they have the Kop there where there's no seats, and I guess that's their ultras. Asiago last season behind the goal, they were fantastic as well. If Nottingham fans want to try and harness and copy that and do something similar, I'm all for it, because, you know, the NIC is a big room, it's a big arena to try and get some atmosphere in. Sometimes anything that can be done, again, make it more intense, improve the atmosphere, improve the entertainment, improve the product, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But what I will say is, it's not an excuse for everybody else to kind of sit on their hands and think, well, that those guys have got it. You know, those guys should be the catalyst for everybody else. I know there are some people that don't want to go and do that, and that's fine. But I know some people are just a bit shy as well. So, you know, get involved.
Okay. One final question, and this is actually directed to you, Owen, from Tina Taylor. She said, do you have a lucky hockey jumper?
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose
it's got to be Christmas based.
For those who don't know, I mean, Owen, you was quite a regular on the old YouTube program that we used to do, and of course, I think that's where your jumper wearing prowess did come to the fore somewhat.
Yeah, I'm known in many circles for my ridiculous knitwear, shall we say.
Not wanting to sound too much like a pervy sex line, but what are you wearing at the moment?
What am I wearing right now? I'm wearing dog walking trousers, kind of a brown mustard kind of cardigan, and a Stars and Stripes snood as well.
A snood?
Yeah, there you go, snood, yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever worn a snood while either being on the TV show or on the podcast, so I think that's...
Well, I'll tell you, here's a podcast section for you. I'll tell you something else weird that happens. I said to you guys that my dog, if there's any weird noises, it would be my dog. While I've been, because I'm doing this in my bedroom, the dog has jumped in on the bed and has peeled the bed covers back and got in bed of her own accord. I've never seen it before. But there you go. In answer to the question, getting back to the point, I don't have a lucky hockey jumper as such. Mainly because I'm sick of getting ripped by the guys for wearing them. What I do have is a pair of boots that I always wear, and when I've worn them at a major major competition, Nottingham are unbeaten. So could be me, could be the boots, more likely the team. But there you go.
No, it's my earring.
Any superstitions?
Yeah, it's my earring, Jono.
But you wear that all the time.
Well, I know, but it's lucky for me. People want it gone, but it's staying.
I'm sure Neil, the coach, Russell, would disagree with that.
To be honest, no, I don't have any superstitions. No, in fact, I've just told an absolute blatant lie. I walk in the same door of the NIC all the time. It doesn't matter which possibly doesn't work, but whether we win or lose, I have to go through the same door. Yeah. So it has no effect on the team. But I don't really think that kind of stuff has an effect on the team, does it?
It probably doesn't. But we all have our own little foibles that we...
Do you have any, Jono?
I have to... If we've
You have your shirts, don't you? Yeah.
No, it's not the shirts. Because I've worn the same shirt all season this season. I actually, if we've lost the previous game, I have to have a shave on the day of the next game.
Ooh, that's hardcore, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, that's my daft one. Well, I'm sure it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. But
to be honest, I think the last 30 seconds, that's why Owen's dog's got in bed, because he's possibly bored of us talking.
Shall we move on to the weekend then?
I think we should.
So, Panthers with 2 games this coming weekend, both away from the NIC. On Saturday night, they are away to the Sheffield Steelers, a 7 o'clock face-off at the Motorpoint Arena. And then on Sunday, they are away to Coventry Blaze at the Sky Dome with a 5:15 face-off. So, Sheffield, that is going to be a difficult game. They have only lost once at home this season, when I was looking earlier. A Challenge Cup shootout loss to Cardiff back in September, which was their first game at the arena after they had all the problems with the ice. So they are quite formidable at home, whether that be at Ice Sheffield or the Motorpoint.
Yeah, I think there's no secret. It's there for all to see. Sheffield have got a good team this year. I think Ben O'Connor's been a fantastic addition to the blue line as well. I think he's got bags of quality, and we're seeing it already. You know what? All I'll say is on both games actually at the weekend, if Nottingham don't win, it's not the end of the world. It's a long, long season. We've just seen Sheffield both, and they're still right up there in contention. It'll be the same for Nottingham. The other hand, if they win both games, again, that doesn't mean they're going to be champions. But 2 really big games. I think, I don't think Coventry's new coach won't have arrived yet, will he, for the Sunday?
No, I think
so
he's
they're still going to
be,
they're still going to be in transition, which is probably going to help Nottingham, despite, you're not going to get that new manager, that new bump from a new coach that we see in football or something like that. So that will probably help Nottingham a little bit. But yeah, two really big games for the Panthers this weekend.
Of course, Greg Jacina is going to be out injured for at least 2 weeks, which news came out today, and that they're still assessing an injury to Chris Lawrence, so there's every possibility that he could be out for the weekend as well, which will leave us 2 import forwards short. A lot of fans have said that they would like to see a spare import out skater. Do you think that's something that we should have done?
It's a tough one. I think you can't anticipate injuries. You don't know when an injury is going to occur. We talked earlier on in the podcast about Corey Nielsen now going with settled lines and how that seems to have brought a bit of success to the Panthers. Look, going against the Steelers and Cov with 2 import forwards down, it's not great, and if Corey can maybe get somebody in or the club can get somebody in, then we'd take that, wouldn't we? We wouldn't say no, let's go with the team that we have at the moment. But when a team's up against it in adversity, I really do believe in this team as a team, and I think we would stick together. We would go into that kind of battle, which against the Steelers and the Blaze, they're our 2 biggest battles, aren't they, really? So, look, we'll wait and see. It's Tuesday as we record this. We know that Jacina's out. They'll have an idea on Lawrence, I imagine. So it gives them some days to work and put the feelers out there, shall we say, if they were looking to bring somebody in for the weekend or a couple of weekends. But it's a great weekend for the Panthers. You're going like Owen says. If we don't pick up decent results, it's not the end of the world. If we do, we've not won the league, but it will be a good weekend. But just like you mentioned as well, the Steelers' home record is up there for everybody to see. But if we go in there with imports down, it really is going to be a battle, isn't it? And they're the kind of games that I love. Hopefully there'll be a bit of feistiness in both of them, and I'm going to both games this weekend, and I really can't wait. These are the weekends that we support teams in sport. These are the games that you want to see, and it kind of gives Corey their own team talk, doesn't it? Go out there, you do the job, boys. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to this weekend.
Obviously, the defence had a fantastic weekend, just conceding once, and obviously Mattias Modig with the shutout and only conceding 1 against Coventry. As we said, possibility of 2 import forwards down, so there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the defence this weekend.
Yeah, but I think Nottingham have a good defence. I think they have a good team ethic, and Aaron mentioned the penalty earlier and how fantastic that has been, and special teams will be very important. Just to go back to the point that you were making about an extra import, carrying an extra import, I think in an ideal world, of course you would do that. Of course, every coach would do that. But you have to realise that Nottingham and every team, in fact, don't exist in a vacuum. And and players have free will and will make choices that are best for them. So would supporters who want a spare import, do they want a top quality spare guy, or do they just want a warm body? I'm sure Corey Nielsen could go out and find a spare foreign European skater, whoever it is, to sit on the bench. But if he's not good enough to play the minutes, if he's a liability on the ice, then clearly you don't want him. So you have to factor that in, and you have to look at the good players that are available. Are they going to come in for a week and not be guaranteed ice time? They're probably not. And if you're you can't, as a coach, hire a guy to be a spare import who is of that quality and guarantee him ice time, because what is that going to do to the rest of the squad? What effect is that going to have on them? Aaron's talked about the team ethic that this group appears to have. You don't want to upset something like that, because getting that and harnessing that and building that is arguably harder to do than to go out and find a top quality player. So this debate and this criticism that they should carry a spare import and they should have done that since the start of the year, that would be fantastic, but you have to be a bit more realistic about what is achievable.
I think, sorry, Jono, just very quickly, I think what the fans that are crying out for this spare import, and they go back to the fact that we had Beauregard as the spare import, but Bo knew his role in that team. He knew that he wasn't going to be playing, a lot of minutes, and he was there to support the team. I fully agree with everything that Owen's just said on that point. You can go out there and get a skater, but for me, I would not want to disrupt the team ethic that we seem to have this season, because it's got us points this season that maybe we didn't deserve or wouldn't have got without a team ethic. And I just think people go back to the Beauregard incident and the scenario that we had with him, but it's very, very different.
Okay, right. Well, I think we shall leave it there, gents. Aaron, thank you very much as always.
Pleasure as always, Jono, and good to speak to you, Owen. Good to have you on.
Yeah, Owen, thanks very much. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show this week.
Pleasure, guys. Anytime.
Thanks a lot. Okay, well, thank you very much to you for listening to the show, and we will be back next week. See you then.